Another comment coming from someone. My favorite Jewish writer person is Moses and Father Abraham.
Okay.
Hebron is a place I wish I could go one day. Yeah, me too. Me too. I would love to
You've
sit
never
in
been?
Hebron.
I could take you at least to our side. I've been once to our side, and I've sit in the cave of the patriarchs. I've been in once.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would love to show it to you. I mean, it depends on if I can come back into the country or how depending on how I set this up. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just talking of that and setting aside the arts as we come to the very last minutes of this podcast. How do you foresee will be the future of Israel and the Middle East in a wider sense? Or at least the neighbor countries and all that. What would be your bet?
But look, I would love to say to people that kumbaya and everything, and we could live in a peaceful world. But
Mm.
as much as I want to be a pragmatist, I'm very much a realist, and I think we will never. My mother put it best to me. We finally had a conversation after a few months, and she's like, "This region will never really see the peace as we wanted. It will never really be like just this Garden of Eden. It will have Garden of Eden places, but it will never really have the peace. I think, unfortunately, the biggest problem of the world, and of especially of Europe, and especially of so many other people in many different countries, is they think that they could just sing kumbaya and then we'll just have a peace agreement, and that when it comes to probably what's happening with Jordan and with Egypt, the peace will probably stay, whether or not they want it. They know that it's important for them. With Lebanon, eventually, I do think something will happen,
Mm.
and I think something will maybe eventually happen with Syria. I can't say what, but nobody really expected Assad to be forced out. But here we are. Assad is no longer since December of last year. But you know, if I had a crystal ball, I'd probably have already won the Euro Millions already. I would have probably already won it, jokingly, so to speak. But nobody really knows. But you know, I think we have to be prepared for anything as it
Mm.
is. But do I think we'll probably see more war in the region? Probably. I think what we'll see more often, even if we don't want to move into a different section or to move into a different kind of topic, is probably more wars with water
Yeah.
wars, because the region is definitely lacking in water, and without water, I mean, you can't really sustain life.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And the other issue is one of the sides, they are not interested in peace. They are not interested in harmony. All they want is
Exactly.
conflict. And that's how they build their wealth and they expand their narrative. So if it stays like that, there's no way that people will live in coexistence.
Oh, I agree with you on that. And I mean, it's something you can't always tell people 100% that don't really understand it. But it's like, if they understood and you explained to them that if we had a peace agreement tomorrow and they had to rule themselves, I mean, the Palestinian Authority would probably be out, because they couldn't blame anyone else. They couldn't blame the occupation. They couldn't
Yeah.
blame this. They've been corrupt for so many years, stealing aid money, they're stealing that under the blind eye of the UN and so many other organizations that just allow them to get away with it and infantilize them. That's, I think, our biggest problem, is the infantilization of the Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority. You know, by not holding them responsible for pay to slay or for this or for you know hyping up their people on terrorism, with
Yeah.
propaganda, with so many things. You have created a generation that has never been, shown that there are clear, you know, issues that you have to solve, and that, if you do something, if you're not being held responsible,
Mm.
then, what do you have to lose if you're not being held responsible?
Yeah. Fortunately, that's how it is. And I don't think it will get any better in the next generation or two. And the other thing I find like awful is that the Western world is always welcome to accept refugees just to protect them. But there are Palestinians now. They need to stay there and fight. It seems that
Yes.
they need to be martyrs for the rest of their lives, and there's no way that they can be exiled for, let's say, for a couple of years and then be back when things are more or less normal. There's no like reasoning when it comes to this topic.
No, I agree with you on that, and it's unfortunately a reality that you wish you could speak to people about it more or less, and the reality as well that a lot of these Arab countries don't really want them. You look at how they're treated in Lebanon, in
Yeah,
Syria, in Jordan. I mean, they're basically put into little, I don't want to call it squad conditions, but what they call camps or whatever, which in reality are cities. You even have them in Judea and Samaria and Gaza. They exist primarily as cities, but in places like Jordan, maybe not so much they're allowed to work, but like Syria and Lebanon, they're not
yeah,
really even allowed to work or have rights. I mean, then you look at the reality of what they did in Kuwait of supporting Saddam back in 1991. They were kicked out. Wherever they wherever they go, they kind of don't bring harmony to their countries or
yeah,
their places where they are moving to.
yeah.
And,
It's a
and then there's
problem.
the whole UNRWA, which is allowing
Yeah,
everybody to be a refugee in perpetuity, which is a topic probably for another hour and a half, which we don't have. But there's so
yeah,
many issues here that need to be unfolded and need to be discussed head on. But the other side doesn't want to discuss it head on.
yeah. So someone is just agreeing with you, Daniel. There'll be water wars, food wars, mineral wars, mindless wars. Either a zombie apocalypse or a paradise with trees. Only time should tell. We need to create our hobbit halls and peace sanctuaries. Yeah, it's just difficult to understand. We can do that, but for sure the intention needs to be in our hearts and always unveil the truth with an educated road. Criminals will find more troubles to resist. And back to someone, Palestinians are the richest people on earth. With asylum, they can reach Canada or USA. Then a graduate or a scholar would require millions just to immigrate. I ask how their youth get their expensive cannons. Yeah, good question. Good question. Yeah,
Good question. Oh, I can say something about like that. I don't want to I don't want to. I know this is going to be on the internet for like all time, but I will say something about something like in general. Like this guy has always been a voice of reason. The same thing with
yeah,
Sonia, just good voices of reason, good voices of clarity and reality, which I could always appreciate.